All right, good afternoon. Welcome to the almost end of market. You're in the Learning Center. My name is Neil McKenzie. I'm Vice President of Marketing here at Universal. This is the 15th event we've had in here this week. And so I've done this a few times. But we are been very excited, I think, with just the reaction from all of you in terms of attendance. We do record all of these as well, so if you missed anything, we will have those available on our website. We will email you if you registered for anything, and then you'll be able to watch anything at your leisure. So if you did miss anything, you'll be able to catch those again. If you'd like to stay and visit with us, which we would highly encourage you to do, please just check in at the front desk. Everything in the showroom is also tagged, and there's some scanners you can pick up at the front desk, and actually you can build a wish list that will be emailed to you at the conclusion of your visit, so it just makes the shopping experience hopefully a little easier for you. There's some new product on floor 3 with a collection that we've executed with Aaron Valencic. There's some in-stock looks with Coastal Living and Miranda Kerr on floor 2, and floor 1 has a new collection called Nostalgia, and our special order offering, which is now shipping in 8 to 10 weeks, which is exciting. So very excited about California Cool. I was in California last week, actually, this very day. So yeah, it's been yeah, I loved it. So it was great. But yeah, it was fantastic. Yeah. So Luann, I'm going to let you introduce the panel. And again, we appreciate you guys for coming, and thank you for your time.
All righty. Thank you, Neil. Oh, hello. Wake up, everybody. Okay. Hey, how are you today? Who's exhausted? Nah, you see, they're all raring to go. I love it. I love it. Good morning, Sarah. Thank you for joining us. Yeah. I'm busting you, but I'm saying good morning. How's that for life? Okay. Feels like morning. Okay. So I'm very excited to introduce this panel to you. I know these people somewhat, not as well as I know most, so I'm going to have my cheat sheet in front of me just in case. But I have had the time to get to most of them, just a tiny bit at least, and it's been fun. So first we have Susie Novaks, who hails out of Northern California. She literally just interviewed for the podcast last week, so she'll be coming up in probably 3 or 4 weeks. Looking forward to that. Kelly Finley. She hasn't been on the podcast yet, but we've been swirling around each other for 2 or 3 years. And Kelly knows I like to call her a tall glass of, I don't know, like a vodka something or other. Every time she walks in the room, she's just striking, and I always pick her out from everywhere, anywhere, but also in the Oakland, Northern California area. And then Joshua Smith. Joshua is New York, and where else? You're based in New York, right? And Palm Springs, 2 fabulous places. And Vermont, too?
I kind of get around.
Wow, that's very exciting, very exciting. And Reginald Dunlap, you are Miami-based, if I'm correct, right? Yes. That's awesome. And then we have Antonio DeLatch. And Antonio is in the Brooklyn, right? New York City? Harlem, okay. Okay, that's right, you told me that. Now, listen, I want to just encourage each of you to check out their websites. You are in the midst of little greatness here, I'm just going to tell you. These are not your garden variety talents. These men and women here have exceptional, elevated talent. And I was reviewing all of your websites this morning and insanely impressed, truly, with the work that you're putting out. And, it's funny because I was even showing my cousin, Eileen. I'm like, this is when something looks simple, but it took 10, 20 years to pick the 5 things to make this room look simple. And it's what you all strive for, right? Having that just look. Well, I encourage you to check these guys out and follow them on Instagram and do all the things. All right, today we're going to talk about sustainability. So, Antonio, please tell me, in your heart of hearts, what is the passion that drives you with sustainable? I know we talked a little bit, so I know it's in you.
It is in me, yes. So, good afternoon, everyone. Thank you guys for coming. So, sustainability and driving that conversation in a healthier lifestyle and taking it not just to now, but and beyond. So as we're building homes from frame to finish, that we're being conscious of the choices, everything down from the subfloor doing cork underneath a hardwood flooring, knowing that that's sustainably harvested, that's going to last and stand the test of time, knowing that we're going to be able to enhance their lifestyle through smarter choices. And we try and have that conversation daily.
Okay, so this is something you're leading with in your company. You're talking about it, right?
Yeah, all the time.
Love it. Joshua, you're doing the same, right? You're leading with it in your company and talking about it. You're passionately attached to it. Talk to us about it.
Passionately attached, yes. Joshua Smith. Yeah, thank you guys for coming. This is something that I'm definitely very passionate about, have been for years, especially bringing in like the wellness part of it too. That's a big part and a key component for me when it comes to the design conversation, really kind of looking at it very holistically. And so in that conversation, of course, sustainability covers such a variety of areas and topics, from the materials that we use, the types of woods and how they're sourced, to the chemicals that go into the fabrics and different things. And there's just so much exciting developments that have been happening very quickly in the design industry. And lately it's been fun because I've had younger clients like 28, 29 coming in, and they're asking the questions like, where does this come from? Who's making it? So it's not just about sustainability, but it's also there's this ethical component to it as well.
Interesting. Reginald, and where is it cross for you? Where is it? Is it passion? Is it opportunity? Is it interest? How do you come to sustainability?
Usually it starts with the beginning of a project, with the architect and myself, and we try, energy is usually pretty important, saving energy for my clients. So we use a lot of solar panels. In some places we actually create, if the property's large enough, we'll create areas where their solar panels are on their own. So we kind of start there initially and then kind of roll back. In terms of the inside, we have to keep the energy working in there. So we do a lot of shades, roller shades, a lot of drapery. Try to use rugs, bamboo flooring. Where the product is produced is also important to a lot of my clients. They would prefer things that are produced in the U.S. Just for that reason, or places where they know that materials can have some sort of certification for what's in the product. That's important to them as well. But it usually starts with the architect and myself deciding how they're going to save energy, how they're going to save money.
All right, different way around it, right?
Correct,
Rather
yeah.
than the garbage dump and what's happening there. It's what's happening with emissions and energy conservation, everything. Okay, awesome. Kelly and Susie, where you two ladies fall on this, Kel?
Well, I think, being in California for 20 years, if I'm being completely honest, I felt like I was doing my part. And I wasn't willing to give up some of the beauty to use green products. But recently we've had a lot of clients, or at least a handful of clients, who really have been asking questions that we need to be able to answer. And we have had working with the Sustainable Furnishings Council and trying to figure out where can we get fabrics that are durable, that won't off-gas, that, some of the things that bother me more so are like the foam, the transportation. And so there's some higher level things that I think that I don't think have been answered, but that's kind of the conversations we're having with clients a lot. I also say I moved to Georgia this past year, and Georgia's very different than California in terms of caring about this stuff, and where I live, they don't even recycle. So it's crazy. And so I'm starting to feel a little bit more of a requirement for myself and my firm to do a little bit more, especially like with our California clients, to offset what's happening what's happening in the other parts of my life.
That's interesting. So what's happening is you come from an environment where it's been imposed, and therefore you step in line and you do all the things. And maybe it was not so high priority for you, but as soon as you're out of that environment, you recognize, whoa, there's a lot that, could be done and isn't being done. And it's, that's an interesting aha, right?
That's totally true. Like it's, when California makes us do stuff, usually I'm not opposed to it. But I remember when I first started having the compost, I was like, I don't have a farm. Like, what is happening? And now it hurts my heart to just throw stuff in the garbage, or but I couldn't compost if I wanted to. Right. So those are the things that I'm much more aware of, and I was lucky to be in California for so long because I have that mentality even in day-to-day stuff.
Interesting. And Susie, you said something to me that reminded me of an episode. We had episode 809 recently, Michelle Rohrer-Lauer, and she's been practicing sustainable design practices for more than 20 years already. So she's an early adopter. And she called it shades of green. Like, meet it where you are, shades of green. And you said the same thing. I asked you a few moments ago, and you said, tell us what you said.
Yeah, I think I'm light green or maybe a pastel. But I'm like super passionate about that. I bring sustainability up with my clients right away, actually. I mean, COVID has just put so much emphasis on the supply chain. And so I really try to support the circular economy by looking towards like local makers, manufacturers, where are things being made, and what is that transportation process in terms of like getting it to where we are. So I bring it up right away, and my clients are always like really interested. They're like, oh, this sofa is going to be made in LA, or it's going to be made in North Carolina. Like, that's great. Like, I've never gotten pushback at all.
Nice. So with the different levels of, where you are in your business in incorporating sustainable design, where are you looking for? We mentioned the Sustainable Home Furnishing Council a couple of times. Where are you looking for the information? A lot of times we always say, who's just ahead of me on the curve? Who's doing something that I admire, that I want to aspire to be like, or to learn from? So where are you getting your information? Because we've got, lots of designers are like, I want to get into this. I want to understand. What are your resources other than Sustainable Furnishing Council? Is there ideas, people you follow? What is it?
Actually, I was looking for the first time last market, and I was on a panel, and I mentioned it, and people came up to me with ideas. And so I feel like, there's a saying kind of like, let my helpers find me, or something like that, where I think if you put it out there, you like actively look for it, you can, you'll get many more suggestions. But like for me, that's when I found out about the Sustainable Furnishings Council, and they have a lot of resources online. And then, funny enough, in our backyard in Oakland, there's a company called Model Number, and they do 3D printing of furniture, and they're super sustainable, and they don't, obviously make anything that you don't need. And they came up to me. I mean, I think they have been emailing me for a while in Oakland, but that's not the point. They came up to me, and we ended up talking. My entire team went to their factory, and now it's something that we are really trying to work into our system. So I think sometimes it's good to follow people. It's good to go on the websites and learn about it, but it's also like putting it out there more. You might, get people, you might attract the information as well.
It reminds me of when you've never, ever heard of this kind of car in this kind of color, and you see one, and now they follow you all over, right? So eyes wide open. You're looking for something, and all of a sudden there's more resources. Are there any other ideas,
It's like
Antonio?
like in a good restaurant, right? When somebody walks by with a great dessert, and everyone's like, oh my gosh, like, what is that? Like, I have to order it, right? So going back to your point, like having the clients are asking these questions, and we don't necessarily have all the answers. So I love challenging our vendors and being able to go to the vendor and asking those questions, trying to get ahead of our clients. So this way, then, like, I'm like equipped and I'm ready to go before they even catch me off guard. But then I'm finding that sometimes my sales and the vendors don't have the answers. So then it's challenging them to go back to their higher ups. I've been like, so how is that made? Is that really sustainably sourced? Are we harvesting it? Where is it harvested? And I experienced even that this time at market with a couple of my vendors, knowing that we were going to be on this panel. And I was just like, so, like, you say it's eco-friendly and you got the tag. Do you know where it's harvested? And like two of them looked at each other and they were like, do you know? Like, do you know? And like nobody really had the answer.
Got a tag, Antonio. Stop asking questions.
Exactly. So I was, it's constantly in pursuit of what's new, what's next, how do we get excited about it and implement it and have, educate our clients along the way without them even knowing that they're eco-friendly or that we're making our clients sustainable without them kind of even knowing that they're doing the good job.
Joshua?
Yeah, I was going to say, I think I agree with both of y'all in terms of, this isn't a trend. This is like here to stay. And these are going to be, it is a lifestyle. And these are going to be questions that we're going to be continuing to get. And I think, we've talked about some of the things like, I love Model Number as well. I just did a Whole House in Rye. It's installing all next week, but they use a plant-based polymer to make a lot of their molds that can be dyed any Pantone color. So you can get really creative, and they've got lots of different finishes. And so the whole piece of furniture is completely biodegradable.
You mean PBP?
PBP. Really? Plant-based polymer.
Oh, okay.
Right? Isn't that right? Yeah. Are you giving me a hard time? Look, I'm like, wait, did I get
We
that
were
wrong?
joking
We were
before
jo-
about all the acronyms.
Yeah, because it's like FSC, PBP, like all the different things. But plant-based polymer, and it's really fascinating because not only are they doing that, so take, for example, Backdrop, the paint company. They're doing really amazing things. So if you order a can of Backdrop paint, they ship it directly to your house, right? So when you open the box, all the packaging can be completely put in your sink, turn on the water, and it completely dissolves and goes down the drain.
Oh, whoa.
Instead of like all this packaging going into the trash. Like it's these micro steps that I think are so important. It doesn't have to be these grand gestures. Yes, we want to move towards grand gestures. Look at me, I'm starting to preach here now. Y'all better have me settle back down. I'm like coming off the
We're gonna
seat.
take you all to sustainable church.
I'm like coming off the seat here.
But what's
you
funny
see-
to me is that I'm thinking that all of your packaging being, able to go down the drain is a grand gesture, right? Because I
True.
think there's 1,000 other places before that where companies are dropping the ball. Like, you've all opened up something that's like, did it need to be wrapped 15 times? Like 13 wasn't quite enough, right? So I love that for you and your journey, that doesn't seem like a grand gesture anymore. It's like you're much more aware, right?
Yeah, there's just so many companies doing those making those like little micro movements and moments. And I think you're absolutely right in terms of like, it's our responsibility to hold them accountable and ask those questions, because it's not about just putting a sticker and saying, oh, we love Mother Earth. And it's like, no. No, that's cute and all, but like what's really going on here and how is this being done? And how is this being done? And this market in particular, I kind of set out on a mission to find more companies that are doing really amazing things when it comes to sustainability. For example, found a rug company. We were talking about like indoor, outdoor, wanting something that's like Sisal, but kid-friendly, pet-friendly. We stumbled across a company. Their beautiful product, because that's the other thing, is like so tricky to compromise aesthetics and sustainability.
Comfort.
And you don't want to have to always compromise, and now we don't, basically. But they're doing something really cool. They're based in Miami, and all of their rugs are made from recycled plastic water bottles. And it takes 250 water bottles to make 1 square meter of their rugs.
We could have made 20 rugs out of our High Point house this weekend. Right?
So it's like just asking these questions, because you may even be buying product that is made this way that you just didn't even know, because you've never had the conversation with the vendor. I mean, I was looking at it just thinking it's beautiful, and luckily she stopped and told me. And I was like, oh my God, that's amazing. I've been looking for that. So.
Okay. Go-to. So we're on the go-to resources or where to find it. So far, it's ask questions, be aware. You find something, learn about it. Reginald, Susie, any input on go-to resources or things?
For me, I with my demographic for my clients, it's a little different. My clients, it's about the aesthetic at the end of the day. So I have to throw those things in, and so then when I get to that point, I love using plastic materials in terms of recycled plastic for rugs, for outdoor rugs. Sometimes clients don't want that. And again, it really depends on the client and the demographic to where they kind of appreciate what's happening, and also depends on which part of the country they're in. That's important too.
Yeah.
And like Kelly was saying as well, I live in a building, a 60-story building in Miami, and they don't recycle. The only thing we recycle is cardboard paper. So imagine all the bottles we throw out every day, and it's literally they only do cardboard paper. So, yeah.
It almost seems crazy. It's 2020, whatever it is. What is it? I don't know what year it is.
2022.
Is it 2022? I was about to say it's 2020. Not sure if it's Tuesday, Thursday, 2020, but no, I mean, that does seem a little insane at this point, right? Like that just hurts, doesn't it? Hurt a little bit?
It's so crazy to hear that they're not recycling and that we've got compost baskets like on the streets of Brooklyn.
Yeah.
We're on the ocean as well.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah,
And it's even like it hurts so much, like you're saying, that I have considered, and you see I said consider, I haven't done it yet, like recycling and driving it to like a close recycling place, right? That's how, it's such a simple thing to do and nobody's doing it. And so I don't know what the answer is. I think that as you were talking, I was like, I wonder it's going to be one of those things where people start having the expectation, or they see one person doing it and now everybody does it. I was trying to think of an example of, but there are all these things that 10 years ago we thought were weird, or I mean, even just having, I love a good plastic straw. I'm just gonna be honest. And so I get plastic straws now. Paper straws are the worst. I would rather just not have a straw. But like in California, I haven't had a plastic straw in years. And so it's like little things that we all complain about it now, but we're all so used to it. So I'm hoping that it won't take forever, but they're just people who are going to be behind, and therefore you're going to have to convince them, even in the furniture, right, to do things that you want them to do and make it appealing to them. So I don't lead with that unless the client wants to, but I'll say I do a lot of the local makers. I'm like, listen, even if you don't care that it won't be traveling thousands of miles, you'll get it faster.
Right.
And that matters,
Practical.
right? So so being a little bit more practical as you talk about it.
Okay. Susie, you have something to say about all this?
Yeah, I mean, well, in terms of content, I think I first got fired up about it like a few years ago when I watched that documentary. I'm not sure if it was on Netflix or what, but it was about fire retardants and fabric and how, you know, we can sit on this furniture and it's not necessarily like that bad, though it has been traced in our bloodstream. People are getting cancer. It's in kids' clothes, and they've found traces of it in kids' bodies. But it's really bad when the house actually burns. And the weird thing is it's not preventing the house from burning. It's burning. Firefighters are breathing it in, and it's been proven they're getting cancer. They're dying. So California State has put in laws where you can't, you know, use these chemicals on fabrics, but that doesn't mean that other places, you know, can't do that, and they do. So again, the buck starts with us. We really need to like read those labels on the fabric. Ask your vendors, is this Green Guard certified? Are there forever chemicals like used to treat this material or not? And make sure that you're putting the right fabrics, you know, on the upholstery in your clients' homes, because it's their health, you know, and it's really important. Yeah.
Well, I would say the same. I mean, honestly, you are in the driver's seat, right? If I'm your garden variety consumer and I walk in and I need some furniture, I'm not reading about all of this, maybe, right? If it's not affecting me in another part of my life, whether it's energy insulation from a cold or a heat standpoint, I'm just might be uninformed, and I might think like I recycle my plastic bottles. I'm a great human, right? I mean, and so you guys as designers are in the driver's seat with this to educate. And like Susie said, she leads with it with every client. Talk about it first. Start it as the conversation. And like you're saying, Reginald, some people will be like, I don't care, I want the pretty thing, right? But if two people say yes, that's two more people, right? Okay, so challenges, things that are hard. Now, and I don't want like nonsense answers. I really don't. So like, like a real moment that was hard. Like maybe I'm going to give you some ideas. You literally had a client who was passionate about it, and you could not get the synergy between aesthetic and sustainability. Or you had a husband and a wife, or a couple that like were on two ends of the spectrum. Like, we want the dirty deets here, okay? So, and it doesn't have to be a personal story, but there is something you cannot, like, just where we are in the evolution of sustainability, it can't all be easy. There has to be some challenges. So what's a challenge? Is it in supply? Is it in what? I don't know.
Price point.
Right.
Price
point. Okay, see, this is the thing, price point, right?
We just finished a house where the client wanted to save money too, but wanted to like save their kitchen cabinets, even though we were moving the kitchen. They wanted to like, not put as more stuff in the landfill. They wanted to use fabrics that would be super durable, but not have any chemicals in them. They wanted to they wanted all the stuff. But at the end of the day, they also had a budget. And that was the issue, that we had to make choices accordingly. And sometimes they were very uncomfortable with the choices, but they also didn't change them. So we had, for example, the sofa. We could either go with a sofa that was ready-made or, at least kind of already standard, or we could do a custom sofa. And the difference in price was so astronomical by the time we would have added in some fabrics that would have worked, we couldn't go with it. So that's like a huge issue. And I think prices are going down, but they're still significantly expensive. And more importantly, in terms of upholstery, it almost always requires that you go custom. So you lose out on that benefit of saving money, maybe because something's more retail.
Okay, so now we talk about mitigating that challenge. So the first thing that goes through my mind, you guys say, it's like, if you start from the beginning that this is a thing, is it important to you? And you get a yes, ma'am, it is, or a yes, sir, then let me explain to you that there's going to be decisions that might be hard coming along, right? So that when you're in that position down the road, you're like, I'm sorry, we talked about this. Make your choice, right? Susie, are there ways that you mitigate it? Because you do lead with it in your conversation. So what happens when that happens to you?
I really focus on large pieces being like manufactured locally, if not in the state of California, in the US. So that's one way. And I try to focus on like those bigger pieces being more sustainable with the fabric, the upholstery, and then for smaller pieces, I have been challenged in terms of like, how do you not order like all these side tables, coffee tables, like nightstands from like wherever? Am I asking what all of the factories are, what's going on in all of those factories? Like, not really, and that's where things get expensive and a little tricky and challenging. But again, light green approach, balance is good. Do what you can and keep trying, to make it better.
Isn't that helpful to know that like you would walk away and be like, they're all doing it. My clients won't pay for it. Like, how do you do it, right? How are you guys doing it, Joshua?
Yeah, I think you're absolutely right. It's like it always starts with setting client expectations with everything in the business. Basically, from that initial first kind of sit down, longer meeting, and I kind of say, here's the deal. We're like going to go through all the things that you can expect that are going to go through the course of this project. And one of the key points that we talk about is sustainability, and we kind of rate on a scale of 1 to 10, where do you think you fall? And then I'm like, well, what would it take to get you to maybe move up 2 points? What would that look like for you? And we kind of talk about that and get clear about really where they are in terms of the shades of green, which I love. I hadn't heard that. And I would say, sometimes it does come down to price. The one that we just did where we did like 15 pieces for model number and a huge custom table, they have 4 kids. And this is something that they're really passionate about because their thought is like, what kind of world are we going to leave to our 4 children? And, I kind of also set the expectation with like, buy well, buy once, right? Because you also want to let people know that it's like, you might be spending a little bit more right now, but this is not going to end up in a landfill in 2 years. This is not throwaway furniture that we're doing here. Like, this is your dream home, and you deserve to have these kind of products and information. And I think the other thing, too, when I kind of come into that with clients, because money, I think, is always the most challenging, and I'm hoping that the prices and some of that will come down. And lead times can be tricky because it's usually made to order, which also means there's not stuff just sitting in a warehouse that's going to get thrown away if it didn't sell. But talking about antiques, like we think it has to be this, again, all these grand things. It's like when we resource and repurpose materials and dressers, like I just went to France and sourced like a 40-foot container. It was the most amazing adventure that I've ever been on. But the reason I did that is because sometimes, as we know, like by the time things get marked up 1,000,000 times on First Dibs, love Cherish, everybody, yes. But by the time like all those markups happen, that sometimes makes those out of reach for people. So my whole intent and purpose with that was like going and bringing over a bunch of really cool antiques that we could incorporate into projects so that all of that, there's a 40-foot container that's not going to end up in the dumpster now. So all those little things, those all count and matter.
I also do the same thing, actually, that you do. Antiques are important in my design for that reason. Sustainability, using things that are old. I try to use clients' product that they've had in their homes for generations. A lot of people just want to, especially if they're moving from a large house of 10,000, 15,000 square feet, and they're downsizing to 5,000 square foot. And they're downsizing to like a 5,000 square foot something. And so, but they want to bring all the furniture, or they want to just get rid of it all. So we try to find the key pieces that still work for them. I was just in Italy doing the same thing that you were doing, and it's important because there's a lot of markups as they come here, and it was easier for me to go and just find things. I say curated design, because you can find these beautiful pieces that you can't find anywhere else that have been, 200, 300 years old, and they're phenomenal. But back to value engineering when it comes to sustainable design. At the beginning of a project, when you're with the architect, you're designing the home, the engineers come on board, you start realizing that the solar panels, the windows, that's a huge chunk of change. So by the time we get down to our budgets, then it's been minimized. Yep. So even if we had, say, $500,000 just for furniture, by the time these guys are finished saying you're going to spend so much money on energy, we need this panel, we need these windows, all these things, and then our budget goes down to 150. So the prices are expensive, and I think for solar panels it's starting to lower a bit. But because the clients are getting such tax breaks and benefits, they rather spend the money on those items and less on what we have to achieve on the inside.
Okay. Antonio, where are you at with all this?
I agree with all of that. I think my time in LA was, now that I've stepped out and I'm like half LA, half New York, I'm really realizing in the last 8 years how much I've learned and implemented in my business, because being in California, it's like in your blood kind of, right? Like it's in our business practice. So everything down from like water to our water restrictors, how like we can't get 2.5 or 2.0 gallons of water coming out of the wall at a given moment. So we're making these sustainable choices from like the get-go. Making sure that our Rolodex of vendors are local. Are they made in downtown LA? And educating the client of like, okay, well, this is going to cost you $1,500, or I can order it from here and it's going to cost you $1,200. I think it's worth the extra $300 to go this direction, or it's worth the extra $1,000 to go in this direction. And for us in our firm, we try and educate our clients throughout the entire process, because I want them to spread the good news. I want them to remain excited throughout that process. And like everyone said, there's so many choices to be made, down to the windows, what tax breaks are coming out. And challenge-wise, during the pandemic, I had several clients where they went out, they bought a Tesla, now we've got an EV charger, now there's solar panels. There was a huge tax break on the pool equipment and doing a more sustainable pool equipment system, timers for lawn irrigation. I mean, just living in LA, you spend 6 months in LA, it could totally change your business, because it's down to just the way you water your lawn to the Trillium fill that's upcycled in downtown Los Angeles that's filling your sofa.
It's like the learning ground, like you went through, Kelly, right? And you learned it by osmosis, just being there, didn't realize, but having it gone is striking, right?
And then for me, being excited about it, just the fact that like it's supporting 40 families in downtown Los Angeles, like we're only going to the Joneses. Like that was my thing. It was like, we go to the Joneses, go see Kelly, cool, she's gonna take care of you. I've already picked out a handful of things. And if I'm fired up and I'm excited about it, they're gonna follow suit, and then their friends call, and then it's a trickle-down effect. And I've got some clients that were really excited about solar panels. Next thing you know, 5 people on the block got the solar panels. Same thing with the pool equipment. And then like my landscaper's talking to the neighbor's landscaper. And it's about creating systemic change for a better earth for all of us.
Then you have the neighbors who complain about the solar panels.
Right.
The views, how they look.
Well, see, I think it's our job to strategically try and be there for those meetings, because if I'm not, then they'll end up on the front of the house and not the back of the house.
Well, aesthetically, yeah.
Aesthetically. So there's been a
But
few
the
of
sun
those.
has to hit where they go.
Exactly.
I want all those solar panels on the north side of the house.
Please and thank
Yeah,
you.
we've had neighbors say, I can see those panels from my window. We had to move them.
Such a hardship for my 12,000 square foot home. I can see those panels.
He downsized to 5,000.
Oh, yeah, that's right. Slumming it.
One thing we haven't kind of talked about, you just touched on it, is technology and how technology is changing kind of the landscape with this. So obviously timers and all that stuff. I'm actually building like a smart home right now and having a lot of fun with that. But even just the production technology, like we were talking about model number, and you're talking about these companies that can now produce things on demand in a way that you can't go into a factory in China necessarily and do it, right? And it's even, I even think about it like going down to fabric, how you can almost print all your fabrics on demand with certain companies. And I think all of that technology hopefully will create less waste better things as well, because you get to have more custom options. But as a person, I'm a kind of a nerd in all that area stuff. It's really fun to see kind of how that's actually changing the industry too, in ways that 10 years ago none of this could have happened.
Okay, so we're going to do question and answer in a second, but I want to give each of you guys is there one thought, burning thing I have to tell everybody in this audience? Luann, you didn't ask me my favorite question. So, each of you have your different levels of where you're hitting it and what you're doing, right? So, tip, challenge, aha moment, go get them, you got this, Kit DeLuca moment, like something, whatever.
I was talking about all the chemicals on fabrics. The air quality in our homes I don't know what the exact percentage is, but it's gotten like way worse. So another good reason to talk to your reps and vendors about chemicals, but also using as many real plants. I know some of my clients, they're like, I don't want our plants, but that's gonna be something that I'm gonna go back to them with. We need more plants in your house. It makes the air cleaner. And just like organic materials in the home, like real woods, wools, linens, all that good stuff.
So you're really coming at it from a health standpoint, right? Like physically healthy. And all of the sustainability addresses the health of the planet. But each time you're speaking, I'm hearing that. And I also know from the different episodes that I've done with experts in the field that people who are autistic or on different levels of the spectrum, like some of the textures and some of the things are very agitating, and so that fills into that wellness and that all of that biophilia and all that stuff too. So that's an arm of all of this, right?
I think that's very valid what she said. I think just a starting point for sustainability is using natural materials, natural product. She said the wood floors, linens, just things that are easy initially. And then I think you should start worrying about, the chemical makeups. But if you could start with a product that's just a natural material. I was one of those designers who didn't believe in, I'm going to say this, who didn't believe in using plants in a space because I felt it was a cop-out. If you're using plants in a space, then you're trying to find a way to fill the space, right?
That's how we grew up.
Exactly. Yeah.
Wow.
So real design was not about plants. It was about your aesthetic, your design, your
Susie's face.
Still over here, whiplash.
Over here.
She's still whiplash.
Sorry.
She's gonna have a conversation with you about this afterwards.
So when you growing up for me and with design, and when I was in school and learning the process, and my mentors, using plants was a no-no because the people who used plants were the ones who were just filling spaces.
Couldn't think of something, couldn't do something.
Correct.
Find the piece.
So now, for me, I find it so necessary to have plants because it just breathes air. And in a sense, when you walk into a space, you feel a plant, you see a plant. I use multiple plants, but I use them very strategically though, and backlit. But
They never look better.
they never look better. But it's important to use plants, and any location you can have them. Living walls, I use them quite a bit now. Again, that is an expense that your clients probably are not aware of. The maintenance of that is pretty expensive. But I've been seeing lately a lot of plastic living walls. So I've been seeing that a lot. So yeah, it makes no sense to me. But again, I would say that just start with really natural materials. You can find something that is just truly cotton, woods, aluminum, steel, something from the earth, bamboo, something from the earth, not something that's been manufactured. Start there, and you'll be fine.
Okay. Anything?
So today we did the High Point Instagram takeover. Just plugging that. Everybody go share High Point Instagram today. So in having that voice, after I came back in the spring, I said, and I prayed on it. I was like, I really want to come back in the fall with a voice. And then I got asked to do the sustainability panel, and that made me put on a different lens to come here to market and asking the vendors, challenging the vendors. So today, the thing that I think I found the most unique, and I've been telling everybody about it, is York wall covering. So just like the rugs with recycled water bottles, it blew my mind that I had touched this wallpaper and I fell in love with it and found out that it was recycled windshield glass. Wow. And so that was a fun find. And again, it's incorporating it and integrating it into like kind of our repertoire and being able to offer these fun things. I think this is the reason why we market, right? We come to market to be educated. We come to market to find cool stuff. We come to market to be able to explore, challenge one another, and be able to create a better home, a healthier lifestyle for our clients.
What do you think that information is not being provided to us? Because I would find that so interesting.
Yes.
But it's not being
It's not,
promoted.
right? And that's why you're going to all start asking, right? You have a final thought before I go to
Sure,
Q&A?
yeah, I was going to say, I think that's amazing. And I think that's where it comes back to us asking the questions because, we'll just like call a spade, right? It's like sometimes the bigger companies that have the bigger budgets are the ones that we know about. And we kind of can all, sometimes if you're in a crunch and have kind of go to your defaults, right? We all kind of have our defaults. But this is such a great opportunity because we do get to get exposed to these other smaller people, smaller vendors that are emerging and doing amazing things that don't necessarily have the big budgets to have big spaces. And so you're not finding out about them. So I think the more that we find them, the more that we Instagram about them and share them with each other, I think that's super important. And it's like just continuing the conversation. And I loved how everyone had like kind of a particular, like yours was on wellness and like emissions and energy. And so I think it's, if we all just kind of like pick one little thing and kind of be a little advocate for that, then we can see this trickle effect will be amazing.
The one thing I feel like we haven't said, and it's probably not terribly appropriate, is to like
Ladies and
stop
gentlemen.
throwing stuff away. Like stop, upcycle, use the stuff that you have, encourage your clients to do that to the extent they can, and it doesn't completely ruin your design. Just take out a shot for it. But there are also places, like when you take all the stuff out of a client's house, take it to some place that will reuse it. Like in the Bay Area, we have a place called Make It Home Bay Area, and they will take all of the gently used, not like don't take the stuff you take to Goodwill, but like all of the stuff, and they have a warehouse, and like I have a nonprofit where we renovate women's shelters. We go there first to see what's there that we can use in these shelters so that we don't have to go and buy fast furniture or anything like that. So I think really I challenge myself a lot to not just be like, oh, I need a new sofa. Oh, maybe I can just take what I have and do something with it. So I think that's something we haven't really talked about.
Yeah, like that Facebook Marketplace, like reupholstering it, Habitat for Humanities. Half that's like right in our backyard.
Okay.
Maybe, and also too, maybe as a little test, and when we leave here today, everyone goes to two vendors and asks them those questions about sustainability and how they, and then hashtag. Want to create the hashtag? What is it?
Well, and this is
You're great at that.
Okay.
and this is
Give me a minute. I will find a cool hashtag.
A little
for all
call
of us
to
in
action.
hashtag.
I love a call to action.
So everyone
Hashtag call
go
to
to
action.
one or two vendors and ask them what they, what their practices are.
so, and I'm going to just take it one step closer to where we are. We're sitting in Universal. Universal put this together for all of us so we could be here and learn from these amazing, brilliant people. So start here. What does Universal have to offer? What, did you find out from your Universal rep, from the men and women on the floor? What do they have that is sustainable? Where is it? Because, it's a big place. We all know not everything in this building, in the Universal line, is going to fit the bill, but what does fit the bill? And then maybe you take that back with you, right? So I love the looking for the little small places and all that, but we're in the house here, guys.
And one place that's literally right outside our door here is Half United. And Half United is a phenomenal company. They're right behind the wall of the check-in counter. And they go to underdeveloped countries, and they're creating economic change in the long haul of creating beautiful product that is eco and sustainable and beautiful pieces, and actually employing people around the world like Haiti and giving them jobs through products for good. And it literally is right outside our door. Again, my name is Antonio Deloach. On Instagram, we're Antonio Deloach Designs.
Okay, Reginald?
Reginald Dunlap Interiors, and at the Reginald Dunlap.
Joshua Smith, and my handle is at Joshua Smith Inc. INC.
Kelly?
My firm is Joy Street Design, and we are at Joy Street Design, all spelled out.
Nice. Susie?
I'm Susie Novak Interiors, and it's Susie Novak Interiors on Instagram.
All right, show them some love and thank them for it.
tried to keep it
Thank
All
y'all
right,
for
guys, thank you so much
coming.
for being here with us today. We appreciate you. We appreciate you guys.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you.